Two stoned ancient fortresses rise from the rugged cliffs of the Polish Jura, their crumbling walls steeped in forgotten tales. Those two ancient fortresses, also known as the Twin Castles, are less than 1 mile from each other. They are Poland's hidden gem, the Twin Castles of Bobolice and Mirów. Their haunting legends stand tall on the semi-mountainous upland region of Jura. Echoes of knights and noble bloodlines still linger in the wind, whispering secrets of the past stormy times and restless spirits. Welcome to Castle Keys. Today we journey into the heart of Poland, where two legendary strongholds, Bobolice and Mirów Castles, once mighty symbols of power, are now haunted by the ghosts of their tumultuous pasts. But beware, as some stories are never meant to be told, and some spirits never truly rest. The story of Bobolice Castle begins in the mid-14th century, when King Casimir III the Great ordered a strategic construction as part of a vast defensive network. Built from the local white limestone that defines this rugged landscape, the castle was more than just a fortress. It was a symbol of Poland's strength against external threats. Strategically positioned along a major trade route, Bobolice stood watch over the western border, a silent sentinel protecting the kingdom from invaders. In 1370, King Louis I of Hungary rewarded to Władysław Opolek, also known as the Duke of Opole, with the ownership of Bobolice Castle. What seemed like a noble gift soon turned into a curse. The Duke of Opole leased the castle to Andrew Schoen, a Hungarian noble who filled its halls with mercenaries. These new lords turned to robbery, terrorizing the people in the surrounding villages and conspiring with the Teutonic Order. The Polish king Władysław would not stand for such treachery. In 1396, his forces stormed the Bobolice Castle, reclaiming the stronghold for the crown. Despite this victory, Bobolice's fate remained turbulent. In 1587, it suffered heavy damage during the invasion of Maximilian III, the Archduke of Austria, a rival claimant to the Polish throne. The Cruelty family, then in possession of the castle, attempted repairs, but history was unkind. In 1657, Swedish troops ravaged Bobolice Castle, leaving the fortress in ruins. By the late 17th century, when King John III Sobieski passed through these lands, he found the Bobolice Castle so dilapidated that he was forced to sleep in a tent rather than within its crumbling walls. Throughout the centuries, the castle changed hands many times. By the 19th century, Bobolice Castle had become little more than a skeletal reminder of its former glory. Thanks to the efforts of the Lasecki family in 1999, the Bobolice Castle began its reconstruction. Visitors can now walk the very halls where knights once stood, peer through the arrow slits that once guarded against invaders, and step into the courtyard where history unfolded. Bobolice and Mirów Castles have survived many wars and centuries of decay. Even today, there is one thing you should be aware of. As you wander these ancient grounds, you may feel an unseen presence, a whisper on the wind, a shadow in the corner of your eye. In the year 1882, it's rumored that some treasure hunters found a vast treasure buried deep within the castle's cellars. Some believe that part of the treasure remains hidden, possibly sealed somewhere within the secret tunnel that connects the Bobolice Castle with Mirów Castle, just 2 kilometers away. Are you wondering what else might lie within its darkened depths? Lots of legends are woven into the stones of Bobolice Castle. As night falls over this medieval fortress, the past comes alive in chilling tales of those who have never left. One of the most famous and intriguing stories of Bobolice Castle is the story of the White Lady, a specter of sorrow, doomed to wander the ramparts in search of her lost love. As legend tells it, there were 2 noble twin brothers, Bobol and Mirów. They were inseparable, their bond so strong that they could read each other's thoughts. Bobol resided in Bobolice Castle, Mirów in Mirów Castle, 2 fortresses standing barely a mile apart. Together they rode into battle for their king, returning from countless campaigns laden with spoils of war. Their wealth grew so vast that they carved deep cellars beneath their castles, linking them with a hidden tunnel where they hoarded their treasure. But not all treasuries can be divided, and some betrayals can never be forgiven. During one fateful campaign, Bobol returned with a prize unlike any other, a stunning princess, said to be of Russian nobility. Her name is still not known. She was more than just a token of conquest. She was a vision of grace, a woman whose beauty rivaled even the treasures hidden beneath their castles. Yet, while fortune could be shared, love could not. To settle the matter, the brothers drew straws to determine who would claim her hand. Bobol emerged as the winner, and soon the princess became his wife. Only the matters of the heart follow no law of war. Though bound to Bobol, the princess's heart fell in love with Miro. While Bobol rode on diplomatic missions, Miro found excuses for not going. He stayed behind, sneaking into the tunnel beneath the castle, where the lovers met in secret. Whispers in the dark, stolen love moments between cold walls. Each meeting was a dangerous dance with fate. As we know, all secrets have a way of unraveling. Bobol was no fool. Suspicion gnawed at him, and he devised a wicked test. Announcing his departure for the royal court in Krakow, he assembled a grand procession, wagons laden with goods, servants in tow. The castle gates swung open, and Bobol rode out under the bright sun, but he did not go far. As dusk fell, he turned his horse back toward Bobolice, slipping through the darkness like a shadow. Entering the castle unseen, he followed the winding corridors to his wife's bedroom. It was empty. His worst fears confirmed, he made his way to the tunnel. There, in the dim glow of torchlight, he found them. The woman he adored, cradled in the arms of the brother he trusted above all. Betrayal struck deeper than any blade. In a blind fury, Bobol did what his heart could not bear. Steel met flesh, and Mir fell to the cold stone floor, his lifeblood pooling in the darkness. But Bobol's vengeance did not end there. His wife, the woman he had once cherished, would suffer a fate far crueler. Brick by brick, her tomb was sealed. Walled alive within the fortress, her cries for mercy fell upon deaf ears. And so, she vanished into the stone, her final breath lost in the cold embrace of the castle. Legends say she never truly left. On moonlit nights, a ghostly figure in white is said to appear, gazing toward Mirów Castle, searching, waiting for the love lost. For an unjust fate. For an unfinished life that was shortly cut. Bobolice Castle, together with other smaller medieval fortresses, were part of the Eagle's Nest's trail. Built at the order of King Casimir III the Great, they were meant to guard Poland's borders from invaders. As history proved, the fortress's walls tells of dangers not from foreign armies, but from the very men who once ruled them. In the late 14th century, Bobolice Castle passed into the hands of Władysław Opolczyk, the Duke of Opole. He was a man whose reputation was as dark as the shadows that stretch across these ancient stones. While he was a skilled warrior, he was also a notorious reveler. His hunting parties, held deep in the forests surrounding the castle, were legendary. But the Duke and his noble companions did not hunt only wild beasts. It is said that on one fateful night, the Duke and his men, they seized 3 women from the village nearby and took them to Bobolice Castle. The grand hall was alight with roaring fires and the clamor of drunken revelry when the captives were brought inside. Goblets overflowed, torches flickered, and the nobles were all intoxicated by the wine they drunk. The legend said that one of the women, beneath the folds of her dress, she had hidden a dagger. She waited for the right moment, she thought, to work out before she struck. The blade sank deep, a loud noise shattered the revelry, and in that instant, the hall erupted into chaos. Seizing their chance, the 3 women fled, dashing through the labyrinth of corridors and courtyards, their frantic footsteps echoing off the stone. Behind them were the Duke's men, their shouts growing louder as the escape routes dwindled. The women ran until there was nowhere left to go, only the steep, crumbling steps of the tower. With no other choice left, they climbed higher and higher, their breaths ragged, their hands slipping on the worn stone. Below, torchlight flickered, hunters closing in. At the top, they knew there was only one way out. And then, one by one, they jumped. The courtyard fell silent. A moment later, the stillness was broken by the sickening sound of bodies striking the hard stoned ground. The Duke's men peered over the edge. There was nothing left to do. No one could have survived such a fall. The women's bodies laid broken at the base of the tower, their final act of defiance written in blood upon the castle stones. Their story does not end there. It is said that at nights their spirits return. Travelers claim to hear the faint echo of desperate footsteps running through the corridors, a dagger glinting in the dark. And if you stand beneath the tower at midnight, you may see them, 3 ghostly figures, standing at the edge, staring into the abyss before vanishing into the night. Not all ghosts are born of betrayal or vengeance. Some linger for reasons far more sorrowful. Among the many spirits rumored to roam Bobolice Castle, one stands apart. She does not wail in rage or seek revenge. Instead, she walks in silent grief, a spectral vision of loss and longing. She is known as the Pale Lady. Her story begins centuries ago when Bobolice Castle was ruled by a noble count. He was a man well past his prime, yet fortunate enough to marry a young woman barely 18. Despite their age difference, he was 42 years older than his bride. Their marriage was a marriage of devotion and tenderness. The count adored his wife, and she, in turn, cherished him. In the first few years of their union, she bore him 3 children, filling the grand halls of Bobolice Castle with the laughter of a growing family. But happiness, as history has often proven, does not linger long within the castle walls. The count's age caught up with him all too soon, and death came to claim him, leaving his young wife a widow before she had even reached her mid-20s. Many noblemen sought her hand, drawn not only to her beauty but to the wealth and land she now controlled. She refused them all. Her heart belonged to the memory of her late husband, and her only wish was to raise her children in the place they lived together. Then tragedy struck again. A cruel sickness swept through the castle, and before the year's end, she had buried her 2 youngest children. Grief clung to her like a heavy cloak, but her last surviving son was reason enough to endure it. He was all she had left, but not everyone believed in her sorrow. The late count's jealous relatives, bitter over their exclusion from his inheritance, began to whisper dark rumors. They claimed the young widow had poisoned her children, eliminating them so she could claim their wealth for herself. Whispers turned to accusations, and though she protested her innocence, she knew her son would never be safe under her care. With a broken heart, she sent him away to be raised by the very family that had condemned her. But blood, they say, carries a connection stronger than distance. And even as he grew far from her, the mother and son remained bound by an unexplainable force. She could feel him, sense his joys, his fears, and tragically, his final moments. One sweltering summer afternoon, as his guardian dozed beneath the shade of a great oak, the boy wandered toward the river's edge. The cool water beckoned him, and with no one to warn him, he waded in. His mother, miles away, suddenly felt a shift, a deep, suffocating panic. She closed her eyes, and in her mind, she saw him. The boy stood waist-deep in the river, the gentle current swirling around his small frame. Then he took one more step. The riverbed disappeared beneath him, and in an instant, he was gone. His guardian never heard his cries. His mother, however, heard them all too well. The moment the boy slipped beneath the water's surface, the widow collapsed within the halls of Bobolice Castle. When the news finally reached her days later, she did not weep. Her tears had already been shed the moment he was lost. She simply closed her eyes and never opened them again. They say she died of a broken heart, her sorrow forever woven into the stones of the castle, and yet she did not leave. On quiet evenings when the mist rolls over the castle walls, People have reported seeing a pale, elegant figure standing alone, along the battlements, her eyes fixed upon some distant place beyond the horizon. She does not speak. She does not beckon. She simply waits, perhaps still searching for the child she lost. But unlike the other restless spirits of Bobolice, the pale lady is not feared. Legend says that those who glimpse her sorrowful form are granted good fortune. A cruel irony, perhaps, for a woman whose life was filled with nothing but tragedy. And so, if you ever walk the grounds of Bobolice Castle, do not be afraid if a soft chill brushes past you. It may just be the pale lady, still bound to the place where she once knew love, loss, and longing. As the sun sets behind the jagged limestone hills, casting long shadows across the ruins of Bobolice and Mirów castles, one thing becomes clear. These two castles are more than just silent relics of the past. They are storytellers, whispering their secrets through the wind that rattles their stone walls. For most of us, the story of the twin castles of Bobolice and Mirów were totally unknown. Let's hope that, through these stories, I've sparked your curiosity, perhaps even inspired you to add them to your next adventure. Because the true magic of these castles isn't just in their simple yet majestic architecture, but in the incredible tales etched into their very foundations. Imagine stepping through the heavy wooden doors, feeling the uneven stone beneath your feet as you wander the dimly lit corridors. The same hallways where noble lords once plotted, where lovers stole forbidden moments in the dead of night, where the echoes of whispered secrets still linger in the air. Picture yourself standing in the grand chamber, where flickering torchlight once illuminated the faces of feasting knights, where joy, sorrow, and betrayal played out like scenes from an epic tragedy. The walls have heard it all. The floors have soaked in both the weight of royal footsteps and the blood of the fallen. And yet, the castles endure, watching, waiting, inviting those willing to listen. Now, I would like to hear from you. Have you ever heard of the legends of Bobolice and Mirów castles? Let me know in the comments. And if there's a castle or a place you'd like to hear in the next video, be sure to share your suggestions. Until then, keep your curiosity alive, your imagination open, and who knows? Maybe one day, you'll find yourself standing beneath the moonlit ramparts of Bobolice Castle, wondering which one of the lady's ghosts is watching down from above. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button for our next trip behind the castle's doors. Thanks for watching.